Well, hello, welcome to the At Home Podcast. My name is Bernie Minnis, and the vision behind these podcasts is to inspire families to dive deeper into disciple making at home. We want to see them disciple their children inside and outside the walls of our church, but especially inside the walls of their home and in their communities. So with us today, we have Chad and Gina Russell. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Well, Jenna and I have been married for 22 years. We have 6 sons. And yes, that sounds exhausting, and it is. But whether you have 1 child or 10, we know it's hard, right? But we have 6 sons aging from 17 down to 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite an age range. Well, I actually did some background check on you guys, and I had some people that know you well give us a couple words to describe you. And so, Jenna, we'll start with you. And I 100% agree with this one, having known you guys for a long time. But number 1 on the list was fashionable hats. Can you tell us a little bit about your style?
Fashionable hat.
I feel like derby, and I don't mean to be offensive, but I feel like you are a derby hat year round, right? Because they're very fashionable.
Yeah.
You make a statement. So the second thing they said is that you're very wise. You're a very wise woman, and the third thing was you're very thoughtful. Like, you think of people, and it's just, it shows so much in the way that you treat them and respond to them. So, Chad, for you, I heard about you, number 1, being faithful. And so that's a great word to describe you. Faithful father, faithful husband. Number 2, goofy. You do have quite a comedic side to you,
Correct.
Which I love, and you're great at that. And then authentic prayer. You're somebody that when somebody asks to pray for them, you really pray with a sincere heart. And so, and then side note, we don't talk about it on this episode, but I heard about a puppet show happening on an airplane with barf bags.
Yes, and that would be the Duggar family.
So now you know who I investigated.
Do not ever put your hand in a barf bag on an airplane and try to be funny. That's all I got to say.
Well, they love you. We love you. I know you guys have been such a blessing to me and to my family as well. So let's dive into our conversation today. So today we're going to discuss what it looks like to build faithful families. And I know that we don't do this perfectly. We try, but I want to hear from you guys how that just looks in your home. So how do you build a faithful family at home?
I think it's funny when I told Chad that you guys had called to ask us to do this. He was like, they shouldn't ask us. We're not there because our kids are still in formation. So I think when you start out the journey, I'll just say how I, personally, you think, oh, if you do this, this, and this, you're going to yield this. And sometimes that I feel like is even communicated from the church. And what I've learned as a parent is there's no formulas. That does not take into account all their personality. So even in discipleship making, it's going to be different per kid. And even if you do this and this, and you set up when we're going to pray together, or even if you do like their little quiet time or it doesn't mean you're automatically, there's no promise you're going to yield. Even in the verse in the Bible says, when you do these things, as they get old, they're going to turn back to this. That is not a 100% guarantee. So as we are approaching, especially the teenage years, it's stressful. It's stressful for us. It's stressful for the marriage. We're discipling and we're disciplining in our own imperfection. So I think that adds a layer that kind of took me back, to be honest. For many years in the younger years, you're like, hey, we're going to go to the zoo. And everybody's like, let's go to the zoo. Yeah. Then you reach this halting part, like, hey, we're going to the zoo. I don't want to go to the zoo. The zoo's boring. And then all of a sudden, as a mom, you're like, oh, I didn't take into account that they become people. Yeah. And they have free will. And so that has really adjusted. But if you're asking some day-to-day things that we do, what does it look like in the Russell home? A lot of things I feel like I learned, you say wise, but I say I have had eyes open of women who've walked before me. So Kristen Souter was a great woman who walked before me. And she says, you capture the moments in, like the Bible says in Deuteronomy 6, when you gather together. And so that's in the morning before your day starts, more so in the evening when everyone's coming back together, especially when you're putting them to bed. I heard something say, you want them to end the day and begin the day with beauty and joy. So what does that look like? If you're Christian, it looks different from the world. So for us, most days, the boys get up and we do homeschool. That does give us the luxury of I don't wake them up. I let them all just kind of get up. And as soon as they get up, they're normally hungry. And so it's this morning I told them, y'all go get cereal. Sometimes he cooks for them. Sometimes I cook for them. But we're just letting them get up and eat breakfast. But then there is the time when breakfast is over. I'm not going to say 100% every day, but at least 3 to 4 days a week, we start with quiet time. And so what does that look like for us in our home is I have a sheet of paper and it asks them, what 3 things are you thankful for? What are you looking forward today? It has like a little emotions chart. How are you feeling? Someone who has made your day so far. And so I give that sheet to them and I put on YouTube TV. We just do worship songs. They usually choose Toby Mac or King and Country. I let them pick the video. We play 3 videos and they're not allowed to talk during the videos. And so they just fill out their paperwork. And then after those videos are over, I was like, okay, tell me, what are you thankful? And we do it out loud. What are we thankful for? How are we feeling today? What are we looking forward to? And then in the morning time, I say, okay, boys, so in the morning, we're going to pray for people not in our immediate family, outside our family. So it could be a neighbor, it could be a grandparent, it could be somebody. I'll see stuff, come on Facebook. Our friend Beckham, that we've been praying forever, his cancer's returned. And so let's pray for Beckham. So I'll will make suggestions, and it's so sweet to see what they will come up with and it could be from someone from their Sunday school class, but we do our prayer and then we'll get into our other activities in school, but we start the day that way. So I would say that's something that maybe how to bring it into not just Sunday, but on a daily. And I'll let him talk about the nighttime because he's there.
I want to jump in real quick. 'Cause you said something really important. I thought, when they were younger, it was a little bit easier, right? And then you discover, they're people. They have their own personalities. They have their own wants and desires, and they're, making their own decisions. And so it does change the dynamic of what that looks like. And so we mind speaking to just how 7 to 17 and just making sure that you're, pouring into and raising.
Yeah, there's this tricky part about them leaving the house one day and that we're raising kids to leave. And there's got to be that some point where we realize, hey, wait a minute, I need to have a relationship with this person. Because sometimes it's been you're okay, do this, don't do this. We got to keep them safe. We don't want them to get hurt. Teach them how to do, but this is also a human being that God has given us to be in relationship with. And rules and relationships are very tricky. What the saying is, rules minus relationship leads to rebellion. Well, there's no formulas, but boy, I can tell you, if you are all rule and you are not relational, you're going to have a problem later. If you're all relational with no rule, there's that dance. And at what point, we've got 2 teenagers, one of them's going to be 18 this month. And you're like, okay, I can't parent him like a 7-year-old. That's not fair to him. So there's a relational component there that you've got to say, I've got to do both of these well, and I can't do them very well either. But you just got to know it's relational aspects of it. I think one of the things that whether you're 7 or 17 in my home, one thing I have learned is basically teach them what you're learning. What's God teaching me? What am I learning about God? What am I learning about me? What sins am I confessing? What victories? I saw God do this. And then sharing that with them. So whatever, if you want to teach your kids, what are you learning? And that I'm always trying to say, God, what are you teaching me? So I'm a student of the Lord, right? Being taught by him. Jesus is my disciple. I'm the disciple of Jesus, right? He's my teacher. Right. So that's really what the heart of discipleship is. I'm learning something and then I'm turning around and teaching this person. That was the model he did and told them to do. And now I'm thinking, okay, I have to be able to teach my kids things I'm learning. And if I'm teaching them from a book that says, this is what it says, but I don't be able to put some emotion behind that. Here's where I've struggled.
Mhm.
Here's what I've done well. Here's why I saw this today. You have to be, I heard somebody say once, you cannot give to someone something that you do not own.
Right.
And so there's got to be that ownership that we have to wake up and say, hey, if I'm just taking this book and I'm feeding it to you, instead of taking this book, taking it in me,
Mhm.
and then coming out, it's got to have that component of it because they're too smart.
Yeah.
Kids are way too smart to think you're just teaching me that, but you're not living it.
Right. Yeah.
And you know how many times I've had to confess to my kids? A lot.
Mm.
I'm sorry I did that.
Mm.
I'm sorry I said that because I can't be harsh with you, and I was. It says, do not be harsh with your children. So I really hate teaching them that lesson of going, hey, it says this, but I didn't do that, and I blew it. And so that is the moments where you hope they're seeing, okay, my dad is not just, he's not just teaching me to do something, he's trying to do it himself.
Right.
So I think that's a pretty non-negotiable point.
Yeah. Real quick, what have you learned from 17, so child number 1, to maybe the middle child, what have you learned along the way that's been helpful?
They're different personalities.
Okay.
We've got some athletes, we've got artists, and you cannot, there's no mold here. And I've been really bad about saying this is, now there are some things, treating people with respect, it does not matter your personality.
Yeah.
But it may look different
Mhm.
in other ways. And then how they receive it. You got some kids who I can look at and say something and they'll look at you and they'll go, okay. And then they got others who want to, you could see the wheels turning. And I'm like, I just told you that's it.
Right.
But that's not it.
Yeah.
They have questions. I don't understand this. And it's not fair to them to say, I'm going to parent, the same way all the way down the line. I told my oldest, as he was a young one,
Mhm.
I'm going to be a different parent to you now than when you're older. And I'm going to hopefully be better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm going to be a different parent to the 17-year-old than I am the 7-year-old because of things I've done right and wrong.
Mm-hmm. Something that you said about them being different and kind of what you just said there, I've told my oldest too, I've never been the father of a 15-year-old, and so we're learning this together, and then next year you'll be 16 and so on. And so I think confessing to our kids, you mentioned that, asking for grace from them and having them see us live out this life that we want for them. So final thought, what would you say to parents, or how would you kind of tell parents to lean into, raising their kids to be faithful, to be kingdom builders? What advice would you give to them?
Well, I would say, first off, what's the kingdom?
Mm.
And it's not church on Sunday necessarily. It's not a religion, and it is a kingdom. There's a king, and Jesus is the king. And a kingdom has a lot of people in it. And a kingdom person says, I bow down to the king. Okay? And I would say, okay, you have to be living a life of submission to the king in order to help your kids do the same thing. And the kingdom is not, again, if you think I'm going to take my kids to church on Sunday, give them to Bernie and the crew for an hour while I go to church, and then drop them off on Wednesday, I wouldn't bet on that. I wouldn't bet on that. Your kingdom is when you wake up in the morning and you go about your day and you grab a kid and take them with you, and you say, why did I spend time with that elderly person? I said, I don't know if they're going to have anybody talk to them for a whole week. And you listen to them and you pray for them. And you find time to say, this is kingdom. It's a lifestyle. Kingdom is not Wednesdays and Sunday mornings. And you have to say the kingdom of heaven is now, right? Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is now. Jesus has come. He's the king. So the kingdom is all around us because there's a lot of people who aren't in the kingdom. So it's just one of those things that you have to be looking about it yourself and go about your day and say, okay, the king is around. What's he want me to do? And you grab your kids and you take them with you. I got a real smart guy, smarter than me, says, take your kids with you to the store. Take your kids everywhere. And then that way you can say, hey, what did you think about that interaction? Did you see that, that headline on the news? What do you think about that? I had to have a conversation the other day about something that, you read this horrible situation where a young teenager takes their life because they were shamed. And I have to talk to my middle school kids about that now. I go, what do you think about that? And that's the kingdom living, because it's a very long journey we're on. And it's just in everything. It's not just on Sunday mornings.
Cool. Chad and Jenna, thank you so much for being with us today. This was very encouraging to me, and love you guys, and just thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Bernie.